truth in journalism, where brave men and women gave voice to the voiceless. But then the corporations bought the journalist, poisoning the news that we are fed. With those tainted sources, all we ever ate was a steady diet of status quo. This hijacked narrative is the truth of mass suffering, injustice, and corruption throughout our land. Status quo, status quo, status quo, status quo. To expose this shift to oligarchy came a band of honest journalists. They left the studio and hit the streets to give the microphone back to the people. From sea to sea, the people were empowered to share their truth. Their voices no longer stifled, reclaimed their power. Join the media revolution now.
Hey there, Jordan Sheridan live. This is Wednesday, May 27th, 2020, from the United Corporations of America. Status quo in the house. Sorry I'm a little late. We were working on some things. Broke a story about an hour ago. So we'll be talking about that story and some other things. Unfortunately, as I go live, I think we're right kind of on the, probably within this hour, we will pass 100,000 deaths related to coronavirus here in the United States. What can I say? It's horrible. I don't think it needed to be this bad. I don't think it would have been this bad if we had a competent president who wasn't a sociopath. And honestly, at this point, I don't really know what the end count will be, but 100,000 lives is a huge, just a staggering amount of loss that didn't need to happen. And I'm not big on thoughts and prayers, but in this case, it's all you could really offer to the people who have lost others. And I think we're going to have a lot more unnecessary deaths because of all of these governors who are recklessly reopening their states, even as the case counts continue to increase. But because we live in a capitalist death army, a capitalist death cult, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If people die, people die. Both the Republican Party and it seems the Democratic Party seem to think. So, yeah, we'll obviously continue covering coronavirus as new developments come. So, we got 260 people watching. So remember, you could help us get this out to as many more people as possible by kindly smashing that like button. It's the thumbs up button right under the live stream video. We are at 270 while having 151 of you who have pressed that like button. Be so kind, press that like button. It makes a big, big difference. If you got a text message, no, that's because you're on our text list. So you sign up and we send you a text when we're live. Gets around all the suppression that YouTube is doing because YouTube likes to notify people often an hour later, maybe a day later, if you get notified at all. So be part of the Cool Kids Club. Text COUP to 370-370. That's COUP to 370-370. So you could join our text list. We don't spam you. We just text you when we're live. That's it. Also, can we pass $104,000 raised? We are now $370 away from $104,000 raised. These text messages cost us $30, $40 a pop. Don't ask, but it costs us a lot of money just to text you, in addition to the other costs we have. So if you don't have the funds, no problem. If you do have a couple bucks, drop it into GoFundMe. This is all part of our campaign to have enough funding to get back in the field when it's safe to do so. And we are also spending money on advertising, which we'll explain more to you in a little bit. Thank you, Jonathan, 25 bucks, 30 minutes ago. Appreciate it. So before I get into the story we broke, and remember, this is a super chat. I did miss a super chat or two yesterday. Wanted to read a few, because occasionally I miss them. Can we sign up in Canada? Absolutely. Oh, yes, you can sign up as a Status Quo member also. GoFundMe is short term. Membership is how we grow for the long term. Right now we're at, actually that number is wrong. Right now we are at 1,775 members. And we just got a new member. Woo! Got a new member right when I went live. Welcome, Noel. Noel is a new member, so we're now at 1,776 new Status Coup members. We were well over 1,900 before coronavirus, but of course, people have had to cancel losing their jobs and what have. So I want to read a super chat that I missed yesterday. George left me this funny super chat. You were discussing Biden's VP picks, and I said that he should pick Hunter Biden as vice president because of Hunter's extensive foreign relations experience due to his time working in China and Ukraine. Plus, he knows how to get great deals on cocaine and strippers. I know it's not that funny, but what the hell? I live in Vegas and got some great deals on weed lately, so I was really high when I wrote it. Keep up the great work. Thank you, George, for the colorful super chat. Stay strong. Stay strong in Vegas. So let's get right to it. Again, super chat's going, GoFundMe's going. So I've been working on a story. A lot of people a little pissed off at Bernie Sanders these days. Some people call him a sellout, a fraud, a coward. Listen, he's still a major figure in the progressive movement, whether you're mad at him or not. So I've been working on a story about Bernie's campaign. What went wrong? Because there have been quite a lot of pieces out there. They call them campaign postmortems. Talking about what went wrong. And for the most part, the ones I've read, knowing what I know and having traveled covering the campaign in 2016 and 2020, most of them kind of missed the forest for the trees, that saying. One of them, Michael Tracy, not even going to get into that. Let's just say it didn't tell the real story of what really went wrong. And if progressives are actually going to learn from mistakes and seize power, not just like be online, but actually seize power and take shit over. Excuse my French, swear jar, demonetized after 5 minutes. If progressives are going to seize power, you got to really know what went wrong. So that longer story is coming out next week. I've already spoke with over 12 staffers that worked for Bernie Sanders, some of them very high level. Most of them didn't want to go on the record, but they went on background, which is not quite on the record, but not off the record. It's kind of in the middle, where you could use what they tell you, but not say who said it. Anyway, so while I was working on that story, I stumbled upon some other news about Bernie that I think is kind of instructive. It's probably going to make people kind of, go mad, and others might understand it. Who knows? All I can do is be the messenger and report what's going on. And you guys could respond accordingly. Thank you, Anamaxa, $1 in the super chat. Appreciate it. So, and by the way, almost 400 viewers, 247 likes. I need another 150 of you. Please press that like button. It's the thumbs up button right under the live stream. So I wrote this a little bit earlier after I broke this story. This came from speaking with over a dozen staffers with the campaign. So it has been reported that Bernie was not really proposing or talking to Biden about who he should pick as vice president. What I found out is he has been talking to Biden about who, if Biden wins, which I think is a big if, as I've been describing. You can read along with us right there. Thank you, Alex Endicott, $5 in the super chat. Swear jar. Bernie has been recommending progressives that Biden should appoint to his cabinet and other key positions. This is what I got from sources very high in Bernie world that I trust and would be in the position to know. Not going to mention names because I don't want to get them in trouble. So part of this is the method behind Bernie Sanders' madness, which many of you think is madness. And also, I've spoken with a lot of his staffers from his campaign that were very high level and frankly expressed to me a lot of frustration and disappointment with what Bernie is currently doing. So I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'll read a little bit so you kind of get an idea, and then we could kind of talk about it. So this is what I've learned from my reporting. Jen, drop the tweet in the super chat too, so we could get that tweet going. Jaybird, $2.99 in the super chat. Appreciate it. Robbie Bear, $20. Love you, Jordan. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Robbie Bear. I love my friend, Robbie Bear. So let me make sure I don't miss any GoFundMes real quick. Thank you, Lawrence Johnson. It's like without fail, Lawrence always gets us started in the GoFundMe. So we're $360 away from $104,000 raised. Keep it coming if you can. So Bernie, as presumptive Democratic nominee, Joe Biden continues to run his campaign from his basement. He did come out recently to do an interview with Dana Bash, which was a giant softball, but what else is new? But status quo has learned Sanders has made recommendations to Biden on progressive figures he should consider for his cabinet and other key administration positions should he go on to defeat Trump in November. Some of the recommendations Sanders has made are for progressive individuals that were appointed to policy task forces. The Biden campaign and Sanders campaign formed to craft policy proposals in the area of healthcare, the economy, climate change, criminal justice, reform, and education. We don't really need to go into the task forces. You know what they are. I think they're a joke, but this is what Bernie has gotten for endorsing Biden. Some of the progressives on those task forces: Stephanie Kelton, economist and champion of modern monetary theory, union activist and flight attendants Association President Sarah Nelson, Heather Goutney, who was a senior advisor on policy to Sanders, Abdul El Sayed, who ran for Michigan governor, lost to Gretchen Whitmer in the primary. He's a Medicare for All advocate and a CNN contributor. Marielena Hincapie, sorry if I mispronounced, who is with the National Immigration Law Center. The National Immigration Law Center endorsed Bernie, and Sunrise Movement co-founder Varshini Prakash, who is one of the members. So these are all people on the task forces, and you also have AOC and Pramila Jayapal on those task forces. So one source I spoke to in Bernie World said to me, the task forces were constructed in a certain manner where the people on there are also seen as progressive champions who will distinguish themselves as people Biden should consider for his potential administration. The task force give progressives a, quote, entry point, goes the thinking, to show Biden and his allies how progressive leaders think and operate, so that if Biden becomes president, he may view certain progressive individuals as worth choosing for key positions. When I asked this source, again, pretty high up in Bernie world, has Biden signaled he's taking any of these recommendations seriously? It remains to be seen, I was told. Now, of course, we'll get to the rest of the story in a bit. Of course, frankly, this kind of goes to a little bit of the naivete. Thank you, Share Bear, 1999. We got two bears. 1999 in the super chat. Thanks for being you. Thank you for being a friend. Oh, I hope I don't get copyrighted for singing. Oops. Thank you, Share Bear. Anthony, $2. Video excessive police force in Ypsi, Michigan yesterday, today. Yeah, I got a couple stories on police brutality today. Thanks for the super chat. So, I've already said what I think about Bernie time and time again. But, you think recommending progressives right now, you think he's actually going to take that seriously while he's on one line with you and the other line he's on with Lawrence Summers and Rahm Emanuel? New reporting out. Not only is he getting advice from Larry Summers, Bill Clinton's Treasury Secretary, this doofus, neoliberal Neanderthal that helped push NAFTA, that helped deregulate Wall Street, that never does not want a wealth tax, not for Medicare for all, doesn't think wealthy people are the problem. This is Larry Summers is advising Biden's campaign. Then you have Rahm Emanuel, who, besides the fact, as Obama's chief of staff, he helped kill even having a public option in Obamacare. But do I need to say anything more if you live in Chicago about Mayor Rahm Emanuel? 16 shots at a cover-up, Laquan McDonald, among other terrible things he did as mayor of Chicago. This is who Biden is getting advice from. He's not getting advice every day from Nina Turner. He's not getting advice every day from, Roseanne DeMauro of the Nurses Union. He ain't getting advice every day from Bernie. So this kind of goes to Bernie in one end. What can he really do right now? He lost. We've already gone into why we think he lost. I'll have a story on that next week. By the way, 500 people watching, 334 of you have pressed that like button. Hate to be a broken record. Please press that like button. The more people that press the like button, the more people that will see this live stream. We're almost at 80,000 subscribers also. So if you have not pressed the subscribe button, what are you doing? Press that subscribe button, click the bell for all notifications. YouTube will notify you, once in a lifetime. So I don't think any recommendations Bernie Sanders is making, Joe Biden is going to take seriously, but let's find out more about Bernie's thinking on this. Oh, this is actually a former staffer of his, what they said to me about Bernie and the task forces. Quote, if they come out of these task forces and it really looks like he's not getting anything, I do think he will come out and be stronger and say, this is not good enough, this is not acceptable, and maybe we will see a little more fight in him, a former Sanders campaign staffer told Status Quo. I don't think he's missing in action. I think it's a wait and see kind of approach. Meanwhile, former staffers of Sanders' 2020 campaign expressed frustration that Sanders isn't doing more and taking more aggressive actions beyond the task forces amid the COVID-19 pandemic about to reach 100,000 dead Americans alongside economic devastation among working people. Quote, it's a real tragedy, a high-level campaign staffer told Status Quo about Sanders' choice to not activate his massive email list and existing organizing structure to organize a pressure campaign for more immediate relief along the lines of government-funded paycheck guarantees, like most European governments are doing, and other measures like organizing rent strikes. Although Sanders has introduced a bill for paycheck guarantees, he has not done a digital or organizing campaign to pressure lawmakers on both sides of the aisle, similar to what he successfully did during pressure campaigns to get Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos to raise the minimum wage for workers to $15 an hour. This next part just blows my mind. Status Quo is told that the Sanders campaign's Slack channel, you know what Slack is, it's kind of the internal thing for cool kids from the 90s, like AOL chat rooms. Slack is like that. Bernie's campaign Slack channel had 70,000 active volunteers, not like passive people, 70,000 active volunteers, which is more members than the rapidly growing Democratic Socialists of America. Yet that Slack channel and other organizing structures that were part of the campaign have not been transferred over and put into use to push Republicans or Pelosi on bolder and more immediate economic relief at a time when 39 million Americans have filed for unemployment. A former high-level staffer said Bernie's organizing army could be leveraged right now to help progressive congressional candidates and vulnerable incumbents like Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib win re-election in a close race. This staffer said to me, if Rashida Tlaib loses by 900 votes after winning by 900 votes last time, and Bernie didn't do anything to turn people out, I'm going to be pretty pissed off, one staffer told Status Quo. There might have been some expletives in there too. So let me kind of break this down so you get what it means. So, Bernie and the broader story that I'm doing for next week, Bernie didn't actually have over 1 million volunteers. That was kind of not an intentional lie he told, but kind of part of what has been explained to me by former staffers as kind of Bernie's magical thinking. So I'll explain that once that story breaks next week. But once we break that story next week. But he certainly has the biggest organizing apparatus of any politician, period. And thank you, Kelly Elaine, $5 in the GoFundMe. Woo! We are now $345 away from $104,000. So keep it coming if you can in the GoFundMe. So, yes, people can't get together right now. The progressives are not like the loony, Trump, don't tread on me. I want to go maskless and, get coronavirus people. But progressives, by and large, there can't be traditional organizing right now like we're used to. But most people are sitting at home. Most people are looking for guidance, looking for leadership, looking for something to get excited about, looking for something to be hopeful about. Bernie's got an email list in the hundreds of thousands. He's got a Slack channel, 70,000, again, bigger than Democratic Socialists of America. And his campaign has kind of shut all those things down, I'm told. So that is just enormous people power, organizing power that took many years to build up, that's kind of been put on pause at a time when it could actually make a difference. That Slack channel, this email list, the people who were phone banking, they're all still, Bernie World still has their contacts. They could be pressuring Democratic legislatures not to sign on. They could have been pressuring Democratic congressmen and senators not to sign on to the original coronavirus bailout. They could be organizing right now for things like rent strikes, for things like mortgage cancellations, student loan, massive student loan reduction, paycheck guarantees. So it's just kind of like such a waste. And I think that source that said it's a tragedy to basically not be using these things because they could be effective right now. At a time when so many more people are home, and Bernie has this digital army that could be pumping these messages and demands through Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, and then the media who's looking for things to cover could be picking it up. It could be a major organizing effort, but he has chosen not to use it. And you gotta wonder why, and I think I'm gonna get to the why here. Thank you for the super chat. The Smith Elvis, 10 euros. Bernie allowed himself to be neutralized. He endorses Biden, thus weakening his leverage and the left's in any talks. Sadly, now Bernie voter shame supporters to vote for Biden. It's a car crash. Well, hang tight. I think you're going to get more insight into Bernie's thinking. And, it's fine there's some people online who don't, just want to rant and call him a sellout and a fraud. I wanted to dig and give the audience a little bit more insight into his thinking. Thank you, Lightning Jim, $5. I'm still on the Slack, but this is why I'm glad I joined DSA. There you go, Lightning Jim. Maybe you could tell us, though, because from what I was told, that Slack's not being used for what we're describing, organizing, pressure campaigns. George Allen, $10. Sending in a little help at work right now. I will watch this later. Thanks for the great work all of you do. Thanks for the support, George. Appreciate it. So, let's keep going. Another high-level staffer for Sanders' 2020 campaign said Bernie's refusal to organize and lead amid the coronavirus pandemic is hurting the progressive movement. Quote, it sets the movement back because for all the progress we made coming into 2020, a lot of the things are going to fill that vacuum, and a lot of those things will not be good. But a different staffer, who was more inclined to give Sanders the benefit of the doubt, said critics shouldn't underestimate that Sanders' long-stated desire to defeat Donald Trump is making him more cautious than he normally would be in organizing against the Democratic Party. He's, quote, willing to see literally anyone but Donald Trump win this election. But former campaign staffers don't seem to agree. In a recent interview, former campaign National Press Secretary Brianna Joy Gray told Status Quo that Biden should not feel like black people or progressives owe him their vote, stressing he is not yet the official Democratic nominee. And Sanders' former digital communications director, Josh Miller Lewis, blasted Biden on Twitter today for his campaign's surface-level outreach to millennial voters, which I covered yesterday. Josh wrote, this is embarrassing. We don't want virtual happy hours with young politicians. We want Medicare for all and a Green New Deal. These people learned absolutely nothing from the success of a 78-year-old senator with young people. Other staffers have pointed out that Sanders hasn't forcefully spoken out against the Democratic Party going along with the original coronavirus relief bill, by all measures a $2 trillion bill that provided a massive corporate bailout while providing some decent measures like an additional $600 in unemployment benefits. One high-level Sanders campaign staffer compared Bernie's decision to vote for the bill and not fight to stop it to his decision in the early 1990s to vote for the crime bill, a bill whose mass incarceration provisions he opposed and warned against, but also had the violence against women's provision that compelled him to vote for it. The original corporate bailout bill, there's an editing thing there, I'll fix it later, posed a moral conundrum for progressives like Sanders. Quote, you have things that are totally irresponsible coupled with things that are completely necessary and important, a source told Status Quo. It struck him emotionally deep down because he knows who his base was working people across America, they're the ones getting screwed. So if you put something in front of him that says an extra $600 a week for each of them, he has to deliver for them. For frustrated progressives, Sanders' campaign press aide and Deputy Iowa State Director Bill Neidhart suggested progressives need to see the bigger picture, even if it pains them. Quote, "This movement is about creating a country and a world that treats working people with respect and sees the downfall of incredibly powerful and moneyed corporate interests as a priority," Neidhart told Status Quo. "Anyone engaged in that fight, anyone who holds true to that mission, must see what Bernie sees and see the incredible need to defeat Donald Trump. Anyone who is spending the second half of 2020 not working as hard as they can to defeat Trump is missing the forest for the trees." Status Quo is one of the few true independent outlets that leaves the studio to get out in the field across America. Support us for as low as 16 cents a day. Sign up, statusquo.com/join. And maybe our next members call, maybe our next members only call at the beginning of June. Maybe we'll drop some behind the scenes stuff I'm not sharing with people right now about my conversations with Bernie people. Maybe there's some more items I know that I'm not sharing.
Don't forget the behind the scenes members videos.
Right.
Today.
And we have some new members videos up. So you could sign up as a member. 16 cents a day. That's $5 a month. That's how we grow for the long term. Unless you want to continue supporting people that ask for your money and then do Trump, 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 Russia, 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 bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. So here's my thoughts, and I'd love to know yours. Drop a super chat, GoFundMe, or whatever. I'll just read it. Thank you for the super chat. Tim, thank you for the GoFundMe. Tim, we are now, what is that, 300 and, I'm so bad at math. I think that's 330, no, 300, oh God. Jen, just tell them how close we are to $104,000, because I can't do math. So keep it coming in the GoFundMe if you can. So I'm kind of torn on this because I do think there's a thing called nuance. I really do. And I also think, I spoke with one person who worked for Bernie in his campaign, spoke with him quite a lot, has an idea about what he's dealing with now. And I think a lot of people don't realize because, we build up our leaders. We all have kind of a hero complex, or had a hero complex for Bernie. I think we all kind of forget. And again, this is not like me defending his inaction. This is me explaining what I was told by some people who know him. Bernie Sanders is a human being. He fought very hard to become president twice. He put everything he had into this. For a brief moment, he actually thought he was about to win the Democratic nomination. So when you're that close to victory, when your whole life you were basically an outsider, even when you were in Congress and in the Senate, you were on the outside looking in, when you're that close to tasting victory, and it's just, the bottom falls out within 10 days, that's a really hard thing if you're a human being to recover from. I know people want to say, too bad, we're in an economic depression, he needs to get his shit together. But he is a human being, and it has taken him some time. There is a mix of burnout. He wasn't just campaigning in 2015 and then took a break. Remember, he was barnstorming the country for several years between 2016 and 2020 with the Nissan workers in Mississippi in 2017. Fighting to make sure Trump couldn't repeal Obamacare, even though he wanted Medicare for all. This guy has been traveling and pushing Medicare for all and the movement in 2015 all the way through 2020. Not only is he burnt out, but he's also he's dealing with the defeat. So when you are emotionally burnt out, disappointed from the loss, even if you want to be more aggressive against Biden, it's hard to shift yourself with those natural emotions that he's feeling to then be leading the charge again in during a coronavirus pandemic. I understand that certain people with big platforms are not going to see it that way, aren't going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I don't necessarily give him the benefit of the doubt, but I do understand, yes, he's a human being, even though it's an important time right now. He's entitled to collect himself slightly. He's entitled to lick his chops after a tough defeat. And Stark 007, $5. Former segregationist hires racist prosecutor to earn black vote and trust from the most diverse voting bloc in history. You got to be more specific. Not sure who you're talking about. So the other part of this that I don't give him the benefit of the doubt about at all is just this naivete. I mean, I think Bernie Sanders could have gotten a lot more. Yes, he said he was going to endorse Biden, but he could have strung it out a little bit longer. It was very early to endorse him in March. I think he could have got a lot more than task forces. And I think Bernie Sanders, it was told to me that he is legitimately taking a wait and see approach with these task forces. And he views these task forces not only about the actual task forces, but as kind of, quote, the entry point into making the case to Biden that he should hire some of these individuals for his administration if Biden becomes president. But the bottom line is, Bernie, the guy's taking advice from Larry Summers. The guy's taking advice from Rahm Emanuel. The guy is doing virtual fundraisers all over the place with the same usual suspects. Actions speak louder than task forces. Edward Dunning, $2. Chris Hedges running as Green Party candidate in Congressional District 12 in New Jersey. I did hear that. Even though Chris Hedges, basically led me on like a scorned lover for an interview, said yes many times to an interview, and then ghosted me, I'm going to still try to interview him for that because I'm the bigger person. I do like Chris Hayes, though, and I hope he wins in Jersey as a Green Party candidate. So I will try to interview him. Thanks for the super chat. But the bottom line is, this is not, Biden is doing these task forces not as like an apprentice program, not as like a trial period for these progressives. If they do a good job, maybe I'll appoint some of them to my administration. These progressives on this committee wouldn't be able to agree with Larry Summers and Rahm Emanuel on where to eat breakfast, much less economic and healthcare policy. We are fundamentally different than these corrupt neoliberal hacks. So, it would be one thing if he was getting advice from Joseph Stiglitz. It would be one thing if he was getting advice from Noam Chomsky. Then I could take the task forces a little bit more seriously. But when you're surrounding yourself with Bill Clinton's Treasury Secretary, that was one of the most responsible for the repeal of Glass-Steagall, which led to the 2008 financial crash, and Rahm Emanuel, who basically zapped whatever progressive instincts Obama had out of him, if Obama had real progressive instincts, and killed the public option throughout this campaign, was saying, no, Americans don't want Medicare for all. Americans don't want nice things. Someone like Bernie is going to scare people in the Midwest, even though Biden's barely winning these Midwest states in the polls right now. So I have a hard time, just common sense, believing that Joe Biden's going to hire or bring on Stephanie Kelton, who believes in modern monetary theory and that deficits don't really matter, as an economic advisor, or Varshini from the Sunrise Movement, when Joe Biden is doing interviews on CNBC that I just showed you on Sunday and Monday, saying, no, I'm not going to stop fracking. We need a gradual shift away from natural gas. You think he's going to bring on people from the Sunrise Movement when he's talking about continuing fracking and thinking we have all the time in the world to make the gradual shift as the planet burns? Come on. I remember, press that like button. We got 540 people watching, 495 likes. Let's keep getting those likes up. And subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet. So it's just, welcome new Status Quo member, Lorraine. We are now at 1,777. 1,777. Keep it coming. By the way, if you don't know, signing up as a member, you get to join us on our monthly members calls. Always a lot of fun through Zoom. We've been doing it before Zoom was cool. Number 2, you get access to members videos, behind the scenes videos. There's 2 new members videos up. Number 3, since I got this new computer, once we could figure out the audio, because Jen and I had some issues yesterday, once we figure out the audio issues, I do want to Skype in viewers. I'd like to Skype in viewers live. So once that happens, just going to keep it real. Members come first. Love my non-members. If you can't afford it, you can't afford it. But for those that can afford it, you can become a member for as low as 16 cents a day. That's $5 a month. Keep it coming. So, my final thoughts. I don't think it's black or white. I don't think it's black. Bernie's a sellout. Bernie's a fraud. I don't think it's white. That Bernie's done nothing wrong and Bernie shouldn't be criticized. I think, bottom line, Bernie's been around the block. He knows these task forces are a road to nowhere. And frankly, from what I was told, which is going to be part of the story next week, which is more a longer story about what went wrong in the campaign. Listen, Bernie Sanders has more than once mentioned to people around him he is deathly afraid of being blamed if Donald Trump wins re-election. He is deathly afraid of the fingers being pointed at him if Donald Trump wins re-election. In my view, Bernie Sanders is going to be blamed regardless. He's going to be blamed no matter the fact that he endorsed Joe Biden in March. He's going to be blamed no matter the fact that he did live streams that looked more like hostage videos. Thank you, John Chavez, 1999 in the super chat. Appreciate it. He's going to be blamed even if, 85% of his voters and supporters go vote for Biden. Because if we don't vote for Biden, because if we have learned anything from 2016 and the 4.5-year Russiagate hysteria campaign, the Democratic Party, the neoliberal establishment, will do anything and will push anything that takes the discussion away from the toxic effects of money in politics, the anti-establishment fervor out there that could possibly elect an orange buffoon twice. They want to take the discussion away from the fact that moderates don't win presidential elections, even though they have brainwashed us and, frankly, paid off the media to keep pushing this bullshit that moderate candidates are the electable candidates. They want to distract, deflect, distort, and gaslight people. So they will look for the easiest victims. And it could be, if Trump tries to stop mail-in ballots, maybe they'll blame it on that Trump suppressed the vote. If, something else comes out, not like a James Comey type thing, but a last-minute thing that they feel was unfair for the media to push, they'll blame it on that. But they will certainly, because at this point, I think it's probable that 75 to 80% of Bernie Sanders supporters will vote for Joe Biden. That's 20% that won't. If the election were held today, I think 20% of Sanders supporters would not vote for Joe Biden. I think the majority of them would vote third party or not vote. And that's if Joe Biden does not get 20% of Bernie Sanders supporters, mixed with not doing a lot better among Latinos, mixed with possibly doing poorly among millennial African Americans. He will do well among older African Americans, even if he tells them they ain't black. He's not going to win without those three things. He definitely needs the Latino vote, and I do think he needs a healthy amount of Bernie supporters, particularly young people. And I don't know if he's going to get all of them. Not with what his campaign is putting forth now. I'm going to cover this tomorrow. In an interview with Dana Bash of CNN, he literally boasted about the fact, he bragged about the fact that, I'm beating Trump right now in all the polls, basically from my basement. He thinks it's a good thing. I'm telling you, they're going to continue this strategy of Biden in the basement as long as they can do it. And frankly, it might be a good strategy because when he pops his head out of the basement, when he does more interviews, he tells black people they're not black and barely can construct full sentences. So he might just win from his basement, talking as little as humanly possible. And frankly, if unemployment, gets to a 30 to 40% level, a comatose Joe Biden might win. It really doesn't matter at that point if the economy gets that bad. Thank you for the GoFundMe. Seth Peterson, $30. Tim, $20. Woohoo! We are now 300. $305 away, $305 away from hitting $104,000. Thank you guys so much. Just so you know, Jen and I explained it a little bit yesterday, but we are trying to raise money, not just so once the coast is clear, and once we could get back in the field. Remember, we've been all over this country in the last 2 years, largely through membership and occasional GoFundMe. But we also are trying to raise more money to advertise. This is the first time we're really spending money on advertising. It's starting to help. If you're seeing our subscriber count is finally going up a little bit. We're doing Reddit ads. We're doing ads with third-party platforms that help get our content seen more on YouTube and Twitter. It costs money. All of this costs money. So your contributions not only help us fund the in-the-field reporting, but also help us advertise, which we need. We don't have fossil fuckers funding us, big bankers funding us, big real estate, big pharma, Silicon Valley. None of these usual suspects are funding us. You are funding us. And I appreciate all the donations because I understand for most, it isn't the best times. So thank you, thank you, thank you. If you can't donate, we get it. We totally get it. So last thing on this, I think, could be wrong. I'm pretty sure you're going to start to see more from Bernie Sanders in the next few weeks if Joe Biden does not budge on anything. Because he ain't budging on Medicare for all. He ain't budging on the Green New Deal. And I think Bernie Sanders, if there's no movement towards, possibly expanding Medicare for the coronavirus victims, if there's no movement, not victims, but people still alive, if there's no movement for more radical climate activity and climate proposals, I think Bernie Sanders is going to speak out against Joe Biden. Because at the end of the day, yes, he wants to defeat Donald Trump, but he knows that if Joe Biden gets elected without pressure from the progressive movement, he's not going to be making concessions once he gets in the White House. The time to get him to make concessions is now, before he gets in the White House. If he gets in the White House, he's as good as gone. He's going to take whatever suggestions you give him, throw it in the bonfire that he has with Wall Street donors. So, Austin Patton, I will advertise Status Quo on some of our March pages on Facebook. Thank you, Austin. Appreciate it. Yes, push the gospel, push the coup wherever you can. Seth Peterson, $35 in the super chat after a big GoFundMe donation. Thank you, Seth. Can't wait for when you get back out in the field, Jordan. There will be so much insanity to cover. Thank you for all you and Jen do. Thank you, Seth. I can't wait to get back in the field, too. Thank you for your contribution. You know another thing I can't wait for? I need to get a haircut so bad. Do you see this Jufro that's developing here? Oh, my Lord. It's terrible. I might just have my girlfriend cut it. Do you know how to cut hair?
No, but there's a first time for everything.
Oh, there's a first time for everything. Wonderful. Thank you, Seth. Appreciate it. Raphael, $2. Trump just moved to the left on Biden yesterday. What did he move to the left on? Did I miss it? I did. I must have missed what he moved to the left, but I'm pretty sure that Trump's going to move to the left on Biden. So I want to move on.
You skipped the super chat.
Which one?
Someone who did it twice.
Oh,
Just a girl.
just a girl? Just a girl. Just a girl, $9.99. You didn't answer my Nina question, damn it. LOL. You hinted at next steps. Also, I have an idea. Let's get a petition going demanding Bernie to unsuspend or we'll vote for Trump. Fears.mass. Just a girl. First of all, I cannot discuss private conversations with sources. That's all I can say. So I'd love to, get on the phone and jabber with you, but I can't go into private conversations with anyone. That's just a breach of journalistic code. All I could say is I think Nina Turner is definitely going to be in the picture, not just in 4 years, but soon. That's all I could say. Hey, I say do all the petitions you want. I think part of progressives' strategy should have been, hey, if we don't get what we want, we're voting for Trump. Hold them hostage, as Nina Turner said, because they're not going to do anything for you. The neoliberals, Joe Biden, the Democratic Party, is not going to do a thing for you unless they feel you might sink them. That's the only way. So I don't disagree with the petition like that. Okay, so obviously we know about the grisly murder of George Taylor in Minneapolis, another African American. Amy Klobuchar, Minnesota Nice Amy, who's my pick. She's going to be, I've been saying for weeks Biden's going to pick her. He might have screwed himself out of picking her with the "you ain't black" comments. That might have boxed him into picking Kamala Harris or Stacey Abrams or an African American woman. But Amy Klobuchar kind of got, in a little hot water here. If those of you remember, as a district attorney, this tweet says it well. In the 8 years that Amy Klobuchar was Minneapolis head prosecutor, she didn't prosecute one police officer shooting. So please, CNN, spare us this pandering now. Let me show you the pandering that they're talking about.
Anyone that looks at that video knows that this is very, very wrong. Anyone that cares about justice, about law enforcement, about our African-American community. I spent the day talking to the mayor, talking to Attorney General Keith Ellison, talking to our African-American leaders. And this is the first step because the police chief, our African-American police chief, immediately terminated the 4 officers at the scene. And that was the right thing to do. But now the offices of the county attorney in Hennepin County, as well as the FBI and outside investigations are taking place from the state. So these cases can be considered immediately, fairly, but swiftly for criminal charge. Have something like this happen. He was.
So, sounds nice, platitude. I don't really get, I don't believe in like vigilante justice. I don't believe in, I do believe there should be investigations. I don't particularly think in this case, what is there to investigate? It's all on video. He was not resisting arrest, as they said. Just the opposite. There was new video that came out showing he was never resisting arrest. He was saying, "I can't breathe." There were multiple people around the officers telling him, "You're choking this man to death." What is there to investigate? Truly, what is there to investigate? But the thing that kind of got Amy Klobuchar in a little hot water, in her statement on this, because, she's a senator from Minnesota. This happened in Minneapolis. We heard his repeated calls for help. We heard him say over and over again that he could not breathe. And now we have seen yet another horrifying and gut-wrenching instance of an African-American man dying. Every single person in every single community in this country deserves to feel safe. As the mayor of Minneapolis noted, this tragic loss of life calls for immediate action. There must be complete and thorough outside investigation into what occurred, and those involved in this incident must be held accountable. Justice must be served for this man and his family. Justice must be served for our community, and justice must be served for our country. Remember, whether it's Klobuchar or anyone else, if that video weren't out, none of them would be saying a damn word about it. This kind of stuff is happening all over the country. When that video gets out, everybody is, completely for immediate investigations. Everybody is for, swift justice. These things are terrible. But when the video is not out, out of sight, out of mind. Remember, Ahmaud Arbery's execution happened in February. It actually became a thing when the video was released weeks later, which happens all the time in a lot of these cases. Joanne Rosinka, $7. Will you have Chris Hedges on? He's running as Green for Congress in New Jersey. Joanna, I think you're a little late to the party here. I answered this super chat 20 minutes ago. No, I'm just kidding. You're not late to the party. Yeah, I'd love to have him on, even though he spurned me. Do you know how many times I asked Chris Hedges? I emailed him probably 10 times to come on. He said yes several times, and then he ghosted me. I've been ghosted by women in my life. Not typically from amazing, brilliant people like Chris Hedges. But I'll still be the bigger person. I would love to have him on. I'll make it happen. And it's great that he's running. George E., $2. Status Jufro. Love it. Let's get a shirt. So I keep it coming in the GoFundMe if you can. We are $305 away. $305 away from $104,000. So Lee Merritt, who is was the attorney for Botham Jean's family, is the current attorney for Ahmaud Arbery's family. He's also the attorney for the woman who was killed, the black woman who was killed in Louisville. who was shot to death as police entered. What was her name? Leanna? Is that Leanna Taylor? I think. So Lee Merritt is one of the premier civil rights attorneys representing a lot of these families. He said, I have to empathize the, quote, justice must be served for our country part. Amy Klobuchar, what does that look like? What legislative solutions are going to address the law enforcement-led genocide occurring between the streets and the overcrowded prisons? So others, she didn't even mention the police officer. She doesn't even acknowledge George Floyd in the statement. This is a disqualifier for vice president. Blah, 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 blah. You know, if you follow the chain, she gets criticized quite often. How is her work to help Myron Burrell, which is referring to the man that is in prison, Breonna Taylor. Thank you, Jen. The black man that's in prison, that shouldn't be in prison during Amy Klobuchar's time as, I think it was district attorney in Minnesota, which would come under the light if she's chosen as Biden's vice president. So why I'm bringing this up is this is all kind of empty. It's empty. Want to know why? Because I've been to Flint 15 times. I've been to Detroit. I've been to South Bend, Indiana. I've been to St. Louis. I've been to Ferguson. I've been in the trenches. And I've covered the protests. And I've covered police brutality. And I've spoken with black people who have lost George Taylor's and family members. These politicians, like Amy Klobuchar, of course the Republicans, it ain't just Democrats, they say the right thing now, but they will never lift a finger to actually change the systemic rot and the systemic racism of the system. Why? Because in the United Corporations of America, in addition to corporations and the fetishizing we have with corporations, we also have a fetishizing with police. And I want to be careful, don't want to trigger the Blue Lives Matter crowd. And I do know some cops. I went to high school with some people who are now cops. They're not all bad. I don't think we should be like insane here and call them all bad. They have they have a real job and they have a tough job. But the bottom line is, there has been enough training just through the court of public opinion, just through the court of the media, just through the court of the last 10 years, that police officers today should know you don't put your knee strangling anyone, much less a black person, as they're gasping for air under you. Police officers should know, based on the high-profile cases around the country, that you should de-escalate the situation. There was no need, in the case of George Taylor, to keep him on the ground with your knee pressed on his neck. As soon as you hear, I can't breathe, you should lift your knee off. There should have been no need, frankly, if it was because he was suspected of having drugs on him or something like that. New Status Quo member, Bonnie. Woohoo! Hey-o, Bonnie. Can I be your Clyde? 1,778 members. Thank you, Bonnie. Welcome to the party. Keep signing up. 16 cents a day, statusquo.com/join. There is no need for any of this. And frankly, the police officers, like that police officer that basically strangled George Taylor to death, they have enough training and they have enough knowledge based on what has happened over the last decade to know in real time that what they're doing is not what they should be doing. So I don't really know what there is to investigate. I don't know what even an outside investigator would find, because by their own statements, he was stopped because they thought he had drugs on him in his car. There was no need for any of the physical nature. And as you have all these people around you screaming, lift off of him, another police officer then went in front of the video camera to block off sight of the tail end of that incident. So not only was he knowingly doing the wrong thing, but then another police officer was basically trying to help shield the police officer in question who was doing the wrong thing. So you got to explain to me, because the Minneapolis mayor, credit to him, a white guy, why is this officer not in jail right now? Why is this officer not charged and in jail awaiting trial? What is there to investigate? Oh, sorry, George Floyd. My bad. No disrespect. Sorry, I got that wrong. George Floyd. I got Leanna Taylor and George Floyd mixed up. My bad. What? There's nothing to investigate. The video is the video. And by the way, if we had the video of George Zimmerman versus Trayvon Martin, when George Zimmerman took it upon himself to play, neighborhood vigilante, it's very likely George Zimmerman would be in prison right now. So the video is there, and let me tell you something. If it was a black guy kneeing a privileged white dude on the ground, as the privileged white dude said, "I can't breathe," you better believe that person would be in jail immediately. But unfortunately, that's not the only terrible incident making the rounds right now. This is in Texas. Numerous cops point guns at this African American and then assault his 90-year-old grandmother. His alleged offense, rolling through a stop sign. Nope, not making it up. Let's take a look.
Why was you fucking waiting on me? Huh? No, you gonna shoot. You gonna shoot our
You stay right there, Tyrone. You stay right there. You stay right there. Good job.
Just listen to us.
He's scared. Y'all have guns on him. He's black. Do y'all not see how many black people are getting shot? Do y'all not see that? And y'all have guns on him. He's only 21. Of course he's fucking scared. Y'all gonna find any fucking reason to shoot, bro. Y'all gonna find any reason because he's black. Because he's black. Because the color of our fucking skin, we get punished. We get punished. We get fucking punished.
Y'all gonna fucking shoot me. Put your guns down. Put your guns down. I'm scared.
No, put the guns up.
I'm scared. No.
He don't got nothing on him.
Put the guns down.
Why the fuck would he listen? He got a motherfucker.
Stay right there, baby. Stay right there.
Take the fight. No. That's why I'm on the ground. Look.
No, there's nobody else in the vehicle.
And it's not no reason for all of them to be pulling up like y'all really finna shoot some shit. I don't like that. I don't like that. He's black. Put your guns up. If y'all put y'all guns up, he'll talk to y'all, bro. Just put your guns up. We're black. They shoot black people. He's not getting the fuck up. He's not getting the fuck up.
So you better stay right
He's
there.
not getting the fuck up, bro.
Stay right there.
Best friend, you stay right there, baby. You stay right there. We're fucking black. Put the guns up.
What are y'all doing?
Oh my God.
He's not getting up. He's not getting up. Look at y'all's race compared to us. Call somebody black out here. Call somebody black out here, bro. Call somebody black out here.
Granny. Are you back my fucking head? Just my granny, please. Okay.
Girl, like they finna shoot something. Girl, like I'm fucked up. Y'all push her. Granny, no. Fucking stay back. Bro.
It's just, honestly, I don't know the full story here. At the moment, take the word that they pulled him over, or the incident was sparked by him going through a stop sign. But whatever this guy was doing, if that guy did not have that girl screaming on his behalf for 2 minutes, those cops might have shot at him. If that guy did not have the girl next to him screaming. He doesn't have anything on him. He's on the ground. He's scared. They might have shot at him and said, "Oh, looked like he was going for something in his pocket." Even if they pulled him over for a legitimate reason, what exactly do you have 5 cops standing there with guns pointed at someone who's literally on the ground with his hands like that? This is terrorism, straight up. I mean, it's Texas, so we're not shocked by police there. But you want to know something? This perpetuates mass slaughter of black people because black people run from the police because they are deadly scared that even if they stand there, even if they do everything right, that those cops might shoot them anyway. So in a lot of cases, they run because it's pick your poison. You want to get shot standing here, obeying, or take a chance and run? This is, again, it doesn't even matter if it wasn't over a stop sign. It doesn't matter if they had a real reason to pull them over. By the way, I've run a stop sign. I was pulled over. I was let go probably in 2 minutes without a ticket because I'm white. And I made up a fakakta story. But can you imagine being in that moment, even on the ground, and they are all these guns pointed at you? It's insane. And those police officers should be fired. It doesn't even matter that, thank God, they didn't shoot at him. That is intimidation. That is psychological torture. Try sleeping after that. Marcella, YouTube didn't notify me. I saw you live on Twitter, so here I am. Hey, Marcella, you could fix that problem by joining our text list. That's why we have a text list that's growing. Sign up. Text COUP to 370-370. That's COUP to 370-370. That will add you to our text list, and you get a text when we're live. So you don't have to wait for YouTube, which 9 times out of 10 probably won't notify you. Glad you're here. And thank you, Reno, Nevada, $5. I didn't know states can actually donate. Reno. But we appreciate it. We are now $300 away. $300 away from hitting 104,000. Once we hit 104,000, then we are 6,000 total away from our goal of 110,000. It's just insane. And frankly, you have to blame presidential leadership. I start, frankly, going all the way back to the 1990s. Bill Clinton signed the crime bill that Joe Biden pushed. And it's not just what that bill did, which was create prisons all over the country. It pushed more radicalization and more police as occupying forces rather than community policing, establishing relationships with the community you serve, and essentially police terrorizing black people. I mean, that didn't start in the 80s. Police and others have been terrorizing black people for a couple centuries now in America. But the crime bill created the conditions for this militarization of the police. Bill Clinton signed it, and presidents since then, Bush never strongly spoke out against police brutality. Obama shed some tears at some press conferences, but he never really did anything to rein in police. Called it a state matters. Trump, clearly not going to do anything. He's Blue Lives Matter no matter what. Throws lip service when these things happen in response to George Floyd. Said, oh, that was terrible. When asked, anything going to happen? Yeah, we're looking into it. Department of Justice is now looking into it. But Obama's Department of Justice, they were investigating the Eric Garner death again. I say assassination. What is there to investigate? Look at the video. So if there's never going to be any national leadership to rein in the police, is it so much to ask for that any police officer, before they get a gun, has to have X amount of appointments with a licensed therapist? See what their racial bias is? See what their racist misconceptions are? Their racist stereotypes that they have? Misconceptions? If there's even any doubt that a police officer, not just that they're racist, because most racism is actually not conscious. Most people don't just wake up and say, I hate black people. Most racism is more subtle and subconscious than this. But police officers should not have guns and should not be able to go on patrol without it being very abundant and there being not just training, but evaluation. Not just once, but periodically. Because again, I think that guy would have got shot if not for that woman there screaming for the police to drop the guns. And yeah, I hope that family sues that police department. Thank God he didn't get shot, but that's still probably breaking most training books. And I remember when I was down in Dallas last year covering the Botham Jean murder. Botham Jean, the 26-year-old black man, he was from the Caribbean, moved to America for college. He was killed while hanging out in his apartment. A white police officer off duty just knocked on his door and shot him dead, and then claimed, oh, oops, thought it was my apartment, because she lived on the floor under Botham. I went to Arlington, Texas, because another black guy, O'Shea Terry, was murdered. This African American drove away from police, and a police officer who was on his car, who was on like the whatever that stepping thing is on the side of a car, once he drove away, point blank, through the window, because he was hanging on the car, shot the driver dead. Didn't not call for backup, he's driving away without authorization, just boom, 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 shot him dead. This was all over suspicion of weed that he had. This is police terrorism straight up. And yeah, there's going to be people that say, Jordan, you're being dangerous here. Don't generalize. They're not all bad. But I've seen enough to know it's not just the racism. They act this way because they're never truly punished. Yeah, the cop in Chicago that murdered Laquan McDonald, 16 shots in a cover-up, he got second-degree manslaughter. He's in prison. But how many of those really are there? How many of those really are there? And yes, they are protesting in Minneapolis, and the cops are unloading tear gas. And think about that. There is a deadly virus going on, and the police are injecting tear gas into the air.
It's on the screen right now.
It's on the screen right now, here. It's just unbelievable. Unbelievable. So, we'll stay tuned. We'll stay on these stories when it's safe. I'm taking a little extra time before I go in the field because I did have COVID, so, I'm not going into the field until I feel comfortable. But I think we're going to be, at some point in Georgia, covering the Ahmaud Arbery story, because there are protests going on now. There was a march, a 2.3 mile march, I think, over the weekend to symbolize the amount of distance he jogged before he was murdered. I have a feeling might be in Minneapolis. There's a lot of places we have to go. So hopefully, if you can. If you can't, no problem. But if you can, help us as far as GoFundMe. Right now, $300 away from $104,000. Thank you for watching today. I definitely go to statuscoup.com. Check out this story. I will put it in the super chat one more time. Share it online if you can. So we want to get more people to the website too. In fairness, just keep it real. The website needs to be redone. But that's another thing we need money for. Website isn't so wonderful. Just keep it real. But we need a whole, just burn it down and restart it. That would probably cost us, on the conservative end, $5,000. So right now, that's not our top priority. But at least it's working, and you could read the story there. And definitely, if you have not signed up for our text list, sign up. Text COUP to 370-370. That's COUP to 370-370. Let me read a couple comments before I go. Thanks for airing this, Jordan. Absolutely. I'm going to see if I can get in touch with anybody who was there to interview them. Cops are not the brightest people. Most seem to lack comprehension abilities. Cops have increasingly been trained to incorporate lethal force in their arrests, regardless of the charge or threat levels. It should be community police, period. Get us to help with the website. That's what I'm doing. That's why I asked GoFundMe. Convo Couch is live right now talking about the Minnesota protest. Wonderful. Taken to the streets. That's what has the only hope of creating change. Remember, peace. And take it to the streets. White America has gone mad. Wait, they already are mad people. Thanks, Jordan. Butthole will help. Okay. Awesome stream, bro. No drug possession charges. You have to put a limit on how many charges one can be given. Mastermind says. I think that's a good place to start as our audience ends at 4:20. Thanks, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow. We'll be live, hopefully on time tomorrow, at 4:30 Eastern, 1:30 Pacific. Peace out.